Hello and welcome out, ladies and gentlemen, to this RGL.HL Invite Week 3 cast. We've got two heavy hitters coming in tonight with IRENE and KND squaring off on Cascade. I am Alto, joined out here by Vox on the desk and Dolphin on camera. Vox, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. It's an awesome night for Highlander. I mean, I'm a little giddy with excitement looking at the two teams are gonna play, looking at the map we're gonna play. I think we have a great game on our hands. Everyone's gonna be really excited come match time.
Definitely, yeah, I've been looking forward to this one for a while. I think this is the big, kind of big hyped possible grand finals preview a lot of us have been expecting since the beginning of the season. But I think the story with this more might be how both of these teams have, been slipping up a little bit in the past weeks. Seen IRENE come out with two very narrow wins, both over teams that, you'd expect them to be beating a little bit harder, with a 4-3 win on Product against Fast Forward, and that 2-1 last week against Apollodosh that we didn't cast, but would have been a good game regardless. And then KND had a really strong week 1 performance, but they had a couple of their mains not show up last week and ended up taking a surprise loss to Fast Forward on Swiftwater. So if you've been watching the cast, you've probably seen these players before. We've casted both of these teams, both of them against Fast Forward, that is. But trying to see who's going to come out here and maybe kind of put those troubles behind them and come out with a strong game is going to probably determine who will be the favorite for the first half of the season. Victor, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's definitely not ideal for KND to have dropped that last map, but it's one of those things that if they just continue to play their game, be the team that we know that they are, and just kind of be a cut above the rest, and they of course have that ability every time they get onto the server to just dominate. I don't think it's going to affect them too much come those playoff times. It is still early in the season. Like you mentioned, they did have some subs in, which can always kind of mess up the flow of your team. So kind of rebounding in this week, and I think you mentioned earlier, kind of when we were chatting about it, maybe not coming in, both of these teams, as hot as they'd want to, that 2-0 clash of titans, but still I think this is going to be really important for their momentum going forward, and which team is going to get off to that early start of, yeah, I'm better than you, so I got the advantage in round 2.
Yeah, kind of throwing down the gauntlet, giving us another data point to work off of and say, all right, well, KND won, or IRENE won, on Cascade back in week 3. So the next time these two teams play, which I think is probably week 7 would be my guess, although don't quote me on that. We'll kind of have a bit
Chat.
of a, yeah, do that. We'll, we'll have a little bit more to go off of. One thing I do want to bring up, though, that you did mention that even though KND is not coming in with a 2-0, the RGL league structure actually places match points above wins, meaning that with KND having 3-0'd the faction, or 4-0'd on Product, taking 3 match points, and then only dropping 2 against Fast Forward, they're sitting on 1-1 with 4. IRENE, despite being 2-0, is only sitting on 3.7, I believe, off of their 2 close wins. So KND is technically in the lead, despite having dropped a game, which is important. That's just how the RGL rules work. Something else about the RGL rules is the map, as this is not a set map week, meaning the teams went through a pick ban, or I guess just a ban, to determine the maps. The Koth pool for RGL consists of Product, Lakeside, Asheville, Warmtick, and Cascade. You can see we are on Cascade here, and it played out where KND first banned Asheville, followed by the Product and Lakeside bans from IRENE, with KND finally banning Warmtick to end up with Cascade. Vox, you got any insight on those bans, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of interesting for me that IRENE would go for the Product ban personally. You take a look at the names on the roster, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. So a little sneak preview, but you have Banny on Scout, Habib, granted he's playing Soldier, Jarrett on Demo, Carson on Heavy, and you look at it and you're like, this is a team that could probably do just dirty things on Product, and a lot of those players have in various iterations of TF2, different game modes. But I guess it's kind of one of those picks, if you have a little extra insight and you're afraid of what KND can bring to the table, which you should be, kind of ending up on a map that's a little more uncertain, kind of getting rid of the safety picks of your opponent to end on one that's a little bit more even-footed, I suppose, even if you're strong on that map, knowing that you could end up on on something that's a little weaker for them.
Yeah, one thing I do want to say to that is that last season, since we were talking about this a bit in the just before we went live about how this is kind of the spiritual successor to KND versus DK, with IRENE having a lot of those same names. Last season in playoffs, the story was pretty much KND won on Koth, DK won on Payload, and two of the maps which KND proved to be extremely dominant on were Product and Lakeside. So I think banning those aren't entirely out of the line with that past experience, but one of the big things I'm a little bit curious about that Asheville ban coming out of KND. Since when it got down between Cascade and Wormtick, I think KND going for Cascade is the right choice. Space Ghost hasn't been really putting on the strongest of seasons, and while Boar hasn't either, he's actually gotten outsniped by both of the snipers he's played against, is still always just a constant threat. And I think KND is rightly going to try to mitigate that, as Wormtick is an extremely sniper-heavy map. But I have to wonder then why they didn't just, leave Asheville in the rotation if they were going to, try to look for a non-sniper-centric map anyway, as, that's kind of the classic in terms of they have a good sniper, so let's go Asheville and just monkey for him on bats the entire game kind of story.
Yeah.
So definitely something I'm a little curious about. But ultimately, I think Cascade should be an interesting fight between these two teams. Cascade, not KND's strongest map, having lost to it to Apollo Dash actually last season on week 8, I think that was. They had it just like in the fast forward loss. They had a couple of missing mains there, so I don't want to put too much stock into it. But regardless, I think it goes to show that Cascade is not KND's map. So IRENE may have gotten the edge with the map pick ban here.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing with Asheville, like you mentioned, it isn't really a sniper-friendly map, but you do have players that you still have to worry about, I guess, on the IRENE side, which is maybe why KND banned it, because it is such a strong, combo-centric map, and they do have Kresnik on heavy, Nursey on medic, and pretty much if you're building a Highlander dream team, two of the top picks there. But Bull on demo, as strong as he is, if Jarrett kind of brings the form that he's had in the past, it's a pretty strong case for, okay, maybe Asheville is going to be kind of a scary pick for us. I remember last time I saw Jarrett, and this was a very small sample size, so I'm not really using that to inform how he's going to play tonight, but wasn't really feeling it on demo the last time I saw him. So I don't know. I think that's going to be another interesting thing to watch for Koth map. Of course, we do have our snipers, but the demos here are going to have a lot of say in terms of what goes down. And also because of the map, and you have that underneath, I've seen a lot of awesome pyro plays go down on this map. Scouts can flank easy. Pyros can maybe grab Ubers and sneak underneath and get behind the combo and do some unspeakable things with the flog. So kind of interested to see how teams are going to play on this map, considering that you have a few extra things available to you that you might not have on something like Product.
Yeah, definitely. Although I do want to kind of sidetrack this a little bit, as we do have Eric joining the server for KND. Rosters real quick. Actually, we're readying up, but real quick, KND will not have Oblivion playing this week. Blake will be subbing in on Pyro, playing his third class in as many weeks. It does appear that we did get baited on the ready up, but another thing is that viewers who may not have seen or been looking at scrim logs from last week may notice that IRENE has made some changes, putting Habib on Soldier, Jared on Demo, and Speedy on Spy, which will be interesting to see how that plays out. But as we are readying up here, we will be moving into this first mid. Vox, who are you looking at?
I always like to take a look at the demos, who's going to get that early damage out. You can absolutely just win a mid sometimes off of the early damage, but nothing doing too much just yet. Bull had a couple of sticks, didn't pop them at the right time, but as DK or IRENE actually starts to move across the point. Good damage going down. Kresnik and Etney are down. Speedy's going to fall on the backside, but this is totally looking like IRENE's mid. They are all over the point and just wiping up the players of KND. Nursey is still alive, which is an important point. No, she's going to go down. Habib with the bomb over on the right side, so looking really good on that mid is IRENE.
Yeah, Carson doing exactly what you were talking about, using that lower to kind of get some extra, giving some extra rats. Came up and was a huge distraction. All of KND turned to look at him in lower, right when Jarrett was walking across the point and Habib was bombing over, and it was Really nice collapse from Irene there to just pick up a lot of frags, kill Nursey, and start off this match the right way with Sky sitting on near full Uber ad as KND looks to start edging, maybe to force out an Uber here.
Oh no, and Speedy goes double backstab, gets Nursey and Bull. Etni's gonna go down too. A couple of picks back in the favor as the Uber does get popped out. So that's something to look forward to if you are KND. For Irene, they're probably pretty happy with the fact that Nursey goes down, so you get that free Uber. Speedy coming in with a clutch pick on Spy, so this is looking very dominant so far, but I'm looking for KND to get aggressive and start changing the tide of this one.
Yeah, I was mentioning in the articles, I was saying that I was doubting these roster changes from Irene a bit, thinking Habib might be better if put on demo, and although he does kind of go in there and trade out with Bull, not getting much done other than that. Danny's going to come in and just two-shot Nursey, running up from lower, clearly not enough coverage on that. KND getting forward, tries to edge point, but Boar's going to snipe out Kresnik and Blake, so nearly a full wipe coming in for KND here when they attempt to push this point. Time is now more than halfway through for Irene, and they've really had nothing to show for it, no momentum in the slightest, so Irene really showing that this new roster might be something worth sticking to, as KND is going to need to pull something out of their bag of tricks if they want to even touch the point this round.
Yeah, KND, I mean, at this point, you're kind of just looking for a small moral victory in this round. I think it's pretty well set that Irene's going to take this. They have full Uber ad at this point, 60% on that advantage, and they've just looked great from start to finish with their superior DM, it's looking like. So I don't know, if you're KND, you're maybe thinking about next round just a little bit, trying to get a couple of picks so you have some momentum to speak about and a little bit of extra confidence before you get into the next one. But they do have a couple of picks in their favor, but the Uber comes across the point. Trying to put damage down is Jarrett. Nursey is way out of there, but the fact that KND have lost a few players might mean they're not going to be able to push right away.
Yeah, 30 seconds left. The Uber did come out, which, you know, as you said, did a really good job denying the point. Nursey did not have to use, so she's coming up on Uber right now. Born a very aggressive sightline, though, really forcing her to kind of stay pinned behind this wall. He's going to back up. The Uber will come out, coming out to Bull and Eric. Jarrett's going to go down. Sky's going to get sniped out by Space Ghost off bats, and Space Ghost gets a sick quick scope onto the Beeb, bombing him from behind. He will get taken out by Boar, as Speedy is in position for a stab. Coming in, will actually get Kresnik before being spotted out by Blake, but ultimately a really nice push coming out from KND, and maybe that, you know, moral victory you were talking about, as they're able to get an Uber off for the first time this round, kill Sky, and even though they lost a couple people doing it, they do have the point. They're not in overtime yet.
Yeah, honestly, if that push had come a minute and a half earlier, I think they'd be looking a lot better. Before gets the headshot onto Nursey.
Right
Demento, yeah, sick frags, backstab after backstab, picks up Sky, picks up Jarrett, but it looks like the point is still gonna go in Irene's favor. KND have nothing left to show for it. I mean, how much more can you do there if you're Demento, Jacob? I mean, the backstabs come in, but just great job, Irene bullying KND off of the point, and they take that first round victory.
Yeah, the med trade coming in, you know, made me think that KND might be able to win it, but just the, you know, combined aggression from Irene coming out was enough to take it. We do see Habib and Carson going lower again. Gonna try to repeat what they did last minute to so much success. Etney's gonna get caught out immediately. Boar gets sniped right, but he trades with Space Ghost. Jacob gets caught out. Speedy in, gonna take out Kresnik. Gets traded, but Nursey getting run down by Billy, and this mid is absolute chaos that's gonna lead in a 2 for 9 wipe, excuse me, as KND gets routed due to the collapse from Irene.
Yeah, and that is just nasty from Irene. They are coming out here with full force, and I think KND maybe underestimated just a little bit the raw firepower that's in. Habib is in too, gets another pick on a Nursey, and she is just struggling to stay alive. And you maybe think if Blake, if they had Oblivion in there, who's maybe a little bit more well suited for Pyro, if there's going to be a little extra defense on the medic. And I don't want to chalk up Irene's dominance just to like one player, but kind of need to wonder if Nursey's going to struggle to stay alive, how long KND are going to last in this match.
Yeah, you know, that death out of her is just really uncharacteristic. Habib pretty much just solo bombing in, no serves, probably not many calls. He's going in again. Will get reflected by Blake this time, though, as Banny gets caught up by Eric, and Space Ghost is going to snipe Jarrett, so 3 down on Irene in an instant. KND's going to sound the sound the horn. They're gonna start moving up, start edging. Blake's got a really aggressive position. Space Ghost coming in with more frags, as is Eric. Uber will get popped out on Carson, but it's a heavy Uber, so not gonna really do too much other than stall for those 8 seconds. Blake coming up and denying it, so bit of a turnaround from him. Glad to see him adjusting to that class. Eric gonna force Carson into lower, but ultimately no frags to be had, as he's gonna need to reach for that pack, but no, Eric comes around and gets him. Habib gonna come in with the bomb, not gonna get him either. Eric turning on the gas as KND now sitting on a full Uber ad with numbers advantage. They're trying to hold this point. Banny getting taken out is gonna be a really big frag as the Uber gets popped. Actually, Eric gonna be chasing in, will get stuffed by Billy, almost finds Jarrett, but will get denied. Blake got sniped out, as does Demento get caught, so numbers now in the side of Irene. Have to imagine they're gonna repush this.
Yeah, and Boar staying alive is just such a problem. There he goes again. A body shot onto Bull and headshot onto Space Ghost. Oh, there's a fifth. Eric goes down. He is nasty. I mean, Demento is just respawning now, and I think that has to be your focus. You gotta go for Boar. You gotta go for the sniper. Actually, Etney is gonna pick up 2, including the aforementioned Boar. So looking good now for KND on the retake. They have a good numbers ad. Speedy does go down, no need to look behind. The sniper is down, no need to worry about that either. Jarrett falls to Bull. So I think this is KND's point through and through. The Uber comes out and just in time to block the point. It's up to Banny and the couple members left of Irene to block this, but you have to imagine they're going to be consumed in just a second as the full numbers of KND have to get onto this point. They have 100% on the Uber. They're hoping not to use it, and they don't have to. Great take by Eric.
Yeah, just not enough frags coming out with that. Habib went in for a big bomb, but pretty much just got air stalled by the combined mini sentry and minigun of Kresnik. But no, the Uber will come out as Kresnik gets sniped. Onto Eric and Bull. Going forward, Jarrett's going to be found, but Space Ghost and Demento go down on the backside of this. Eric as well. Nursey gets taken out by Banny, who's been sitting behind the KND house this entire time. Gonna take out Scratchy too, so Froyotech coming up big in this fight, as it's going to be a near wipe for KND immediately after that take, so I guess the flank really isn't coming into control. We saw Eric having some really good moments before, but maybe both scouts are just dodging each other and able to get so much done because of that, but KND might be on the losing end of that trade there if Banny's allowed to do what he wants. Habib going to be aggro on Bats, jumping out to safety, or jumping even further behind. Actually, he's going in still from behind. Bull gonna get sniped, will stall any pushes. Habib taking out Eric, Moore will get sniped, but he's gonna take out Space Ghost too. Habib on the flank being massive right now, so Irene sitting comfortable on this point. 100% Uber on Sky.
Yeah, 20 seconds left. Nursey might get an Uber just in time. I don't think so even. But they do still have to worry about Skies. They're just going to have to jump in at some point. Actually, no, the Uber gets used now. Good use out of Irene. They saw the amount of people all grouped up on the KND side getting ready for that last second push. You don't have to use it on the point. You can be a little aggressive, and with Irene's DM, they managed to go up 2-0, take a nice clean take of this half, and they are looking utterly dominant. Better things out of KND in that round, but they still have a kind of a ways to go if they want to convert the round victory.
Yeah, definitely. That just was a really just masterful showing. You know, see, we mentioned how KND was probably picking Cascade because it was the less sniper heavy map between Cascade and Warmtick, but Boar comes in with a 17-4 KD, as we should hopefully be getting stats up if they're not up already. 566 DPM, absolutely had a field day on this map. Really, Space Ghost killed him a couple times. I think maybe got stabbed once or got bombed once, but really only 4 deaths to Space Ghost's 9 means that he was just a constant source of pressure for Irene, and probably the biggest reason why they won that, but definitely not the only one, as we saw a bunch of strong performances coming in from other players.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just, you look at the top performers and it is just a sea of blue. Eric and Space Ghost kind of getting in there, and the fact that Space Ghost gets the second frag on the KND side, going 9-9, just kind of goes to show it was kind of a weak performance otherwise. Kresnik not able to get much done, goes 3-9. Etney, you know, you're a soldier. It is kind of difficult sometimes on Koth maps, especially when your team is not doing too hot, because it doesn't afford you that space to bomb in. So I don't know, Bull did have some solid DPM, and you're not really expecting your demo to convert frags, and maybe that's Eric kind of cleaning up on the on the damage done by Bull, but there aren't too many big takeaways for the KND side and logs, and as you mentioned for Froyo, it's just kind of an all team performance, everyone chipping in.
Yeah, just Irene, but very, yeah, really just any on that 14-8. Habib, only 11 and 8, did have a couple of bombs that didn't turn out so well, but the ones where he wasn't immediately denied, he was like a pimple or I don't know, some kind of gross body sore that won't go away. He was just sitting in the back lines of KND, having his way with them. Banning, same thing as well. I think he was flanking up through their own cave entrance, actually, able to run back on Cliff and then harass Space Ghost on bats. And just again, when you're playing Cascade and you're kind of feeling trapped, pinched in with their flank behind you, and then that, the sniper sight lines and the not too strong of a cover by the point, you really just feel, kind of hunted and never safe, which I think explains why Nursey wasn't having such a good game. Since if you were to turn off the name tags and just look at those stats, you'd never assume Nursey was the one dying 4 times as often as the other med, but that's how this game's going for them.
Yeah, and we were kind of seeing how it was happening in real time, what was going on in terms of the medic deaths, and then you look at the logs, and it doesn't just get confirmed. It's two deaths for Sky, 8 for Nursey. It's not great, and that's a huge reason why they're struggling. And like I said, it's not solely on your medic to stay alive. Of course, Nursey, she's fantastic. Probably one of the best medics that ever played TF2, if not the best. But when you have their entire team down your throats the entire time, it's very difficult to try to stay alive, especially with potentially a pyro not as comfortable with your combo. There's just so much that can go into it. So I am hoping that KND have a way of rebounding a little bit, make this a little more competitive. And if there is a team that's going to be able, I think it is the core of KND that's on the server.
All right, I was gonna bring up a couple more points, but it looks like these teams are ready. We've got potentially only 2 more rounds to go in this match. Hoping this would be a lot closer than it may be turning out. But as we show up on this mid, gonna have to see if KND had a bit of a halftime pep talk, maybe kind of lift their spirits. We saw from KND, or excuse me, fast forward on Apollo Dodge last week. It does look like Etney is going to be playing lower, ready for that rush that kind of cost them so heavily. Scratchy and Banny going to trade out pretty quickly on this mid. Speedy in, gets caught out, so things already going better for KND, as by this point on the other mids, they've pretty much been wiped. Looks like Bull will start to edge. Jarrett getting hit really low and forced out of the point. Etney with some nice real estate, and the other teams are in Irene's cave. And Jacob will get caught out, but KND has the cap time on their favor, and the health it looks like right now. Actually, maybe not so much. Nursey will see to that, though. Boar will snipe out Space Ghost, meaning that the cap time should be free. Uber's coming out, though, pretty early from Nursey. It's not too much pressure on Sky. She will use in return. Banny looking to be chasing out Nursey with her Habib bombing in. Nursey kiting so far. Speedy beefs the stab, but it's not enough, as he will take out Scratchy and Blade. Crescent going down as well. Finally, we do see Arik actually coming in, taking out Sky to get that crucial med trade. But ultimately, Irene's going to come out happy with this as they take the mid after a much more contested fight.
Yeah, and if you're KND, I think you got to go pedal to the metal here. You have the advantage in spawn. I don't know if there's a teleporter up for the blue side. It looks like there is, so maybe Sky can get to the front lines a little faster, but you have the heal advantage, so go down their throats. But Bull going down is going to be a huge loss for them. No forward damage with that demo man down. So for the Irene side, they're in clear control of the point. KND not able to capitalize and actually losing a lot of players. Nursey tagged down low. She's going to have to retreat. Eric trying to get a heal up. Kresnik should fall. There he goes, but Space Ghost did get Sky, and immediately in return, Boar finds a headshot onto Nursey. So both medics down. And I feel like that's a familiar sight out of Boar. Just continues to pour on the headshot.
Yeah, you can be maybe saying that for how dominant her team's playing, Sky might be able to avoid a couple of these deaths, but ultimately there's nothing better than there's no better feeling when you die on mid and your team immediately just picks you back up and trades out for that frag. So we're doing really well. Looks like KND though will be able to capitalize off that with their shorter spawns to take this point back. Pretty solid out on the side of Nursey, about 30% right now, as Irene's going to be forced back to regroup here. See how they deal with pushing this, but they haven't had too much of a problem with it in the past, so have to imagine we'll be seeing something soon.
Yeah, their dry pushes have been fantastic, and you do have to keep an eye out on Boar. One thing that I actually do wonder is, you have a player like Nursey, probably more used to the standard maps that you see in Highlander. I don't know how much experience she has on this map. You wonder if maybe there's some sightlines Boar is aware of that she's learning for the first time. But Uber is used from the lower position. Habib goes down as well as Banny. Luckily for Irene, Sky is way out of the picture and now has a good Uber ad, so maybe not exactly what KND were hoping for with this. And Irene now trying to bully them off of the point because they know they have Uber ad, nothing to contest with, and it's looking good so far. They have the positioning. I think they just need to start getting the cap time going, and they're going to be looking good. 100% coming up, and we'll see if they have to use.
Yeah, Speedy had stepped at Space Coast a while ago. Uber will come out, though. Nursey just going to get caught out immediately. Demento and Eric going down as well, so bit of a front-loaded Uber fight there. Maybe didn't need to use, but better safe than sorry, and with Nursey going down, ultimately it will not matter, as that, not a dry push this time, but the push will come out from Irene all the same, as they are just pulling ahead in the time. Space Ghost going to come in and actually takes out Jarrett, meaning no demo might allow KND to push up a bit. Speedy getting caught out as well, but Habib still behind, trades out with Space Ghost, so no sniper to help this push. Banny dropping in, gets pushed off by the mini sentry, as Jacob really forward on the point is leading this edge for time. Banny runs in from behind, will actually take out Nursey, not being shut down by KND there. Really have to throw some question marks at that, because that shouldn't have happened, but just to kind of complete the collapse, Bowl will get sniped out by Boar, and Irene comes right back in to hold this point, and sloppy play at a KND it looks like. Not what I was expecting to say, but really you don't like seeing your med go down in the middle of 5 people, especially when you do have the mini sentry up regardless.
Yeah, and it is super clutch by Banny. I mean, he doesn't get that frag. KND comes down with the point. Bull jumps in. Banny is going to defend, but the Uber does get forced off. So successful by Bull. The fact that he's able to force that Uber off. They just need to make sure they don't lose too many players. And Irene looked like they were going for a forward hold, but they're just going to leave their flank in there. Habib trying to put some good damage down, but it looks like, is that Krisnik on the Natasha? Oh, I think it is.
I believe it's
been a minute,
yeah.
But I love it. To stop Banny, to stop Habib, what do you do but slow them down in midair? I like the play. He is going to pick up Banny off of it. Backstab onto Board. Jarrett goes down with the body shot. This is KND's point through and through. The only thing that could make it better is if they found Sky, but she's backed up all the way to spawn. So, oh no, the Uber gets forced off. Great job by Carson. Really unfortunate for KND. The fact that they have to try to win it off of this. 4 seconds left for Blue.
Yeah, we saw that Carson underpush so vital in the first 2 mid-fights, kind of making a return here to force out Nursey, and what might be a crucial moment. I was going to say Sky getting out is not as big of a deal when you have Uber Ed, but Uber Ed no longer, so we're going to have to see how KND is able to hold this. Lots of Irene grouping up on that left side there. Jarrett actually getting spammed really low, Bull almost taking him out. Eric getting sniped out by Boar is going to be big for this fight. May have a sightline on Bull, but Banny gets traded out, so no scouts for this fight. Kresnik very low, so Uber comes out, Jarrett jumping in, Speedy gets caught out, nothing to be found. The frags are going in Irene's favor. Kresnik, Space Ghost, the Mini all going down. It looks like Irene's gonna cap this with only 2 seconds left. Edney bombs it in desperation. Blake and Bull moving up, not gonna be able to get on it. And we have Irene at match point.
Fantastic job by Billy Soros there too. Just air blast after air blast, denying every point of damage Bull was trying to do onto that point. And yeah, they're up 3-0 right now. They're looking to take a clean sweep. And you were talking about match points earlier. Irene is trying to send a message to KND right now, and they're doing it with style.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not even, it looks like Irene's pretty much just, reforged themselves. They're looking so much stronger than they have in weeks past. This mid-fight is already going in their favor. 3 down on KND early with only Carson going down. Gets killed by Kresnik and lower. Banny and Speedy will go down as well, but ultimately, kind of garbage time frags as they take the mid. Nursey actually with a pretty 20% ad on Sky, so good building on her end. Unfortunately, with all of those late frags, I don't think they're going to be able to capitalize off of it. Bull getting sniped as well. Major deterrent for this push. Space Ghost able to land a headshot on someone, but ultimately no frag, and that's what matters. So KND still looking for a real opening to kind of go in here, as looks like Irene's just pretty content to sit on the rocks and bait them into boar.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be an interesting play coming. Actually, the Uber does come in for both sides. Sky having trouble linking up with anyone for the earlier stages of it, but Bull does go down. Kresnik and Blake, Eric falls too. Scratchy, it's everyone on KND starts to fall, and the rest are backed out completely. Irene are just so just so good. I don't know how else to describe it. The fact that no matter what the situation is, Sky does not get anything from that Uber, and the fact that Irene are still able to clean up and take down nearly everyone on the KND side. Oh no,
He's gonna
again.
go in on the backside of that, right as Nursey actually kills Banny with a crossbow, but ultimately goes down to Speedy coming in with that stab right at the end. Not sure what her percent was, but that's got us thing for KND to just kind of compound this. You know, you have to imagine things are already against their, not in their favor. They need to take a 4-round reverse sweep here if they want to win this, but, you know, their primary focus should just be on taking one, and that stab's really going to make it difficult for this one to happen, as we have just crested half cap time for Irene right now at 115 and counting. KND really only at 40%. Sky did get used there, I think, or might have gone down. Looks like she went down, as I see the tele effects on her feet. Didn't catch the what there, so good on KND to trade that out. May give them a little bit more of a of some leverage there that I wasn't giving them before, but Speedy got a run in on Nurse. He gets found out. I think she got a saw, actually, so 90% on her. Ticking up now. They're going to hold the edge before she gets, and it looks like she will have Blake and Space Ghost and Kresnik going down. Gonna be forced off on Etney and Bull. This Uber will go forward, but Bull gets denied and almost dropped as Banny will force this out, and unfortunately nothing doing here. That Uber should have been very big. They do get the cap, but I think it's only going to extend their spawns as Irene takes it right back, and Sky leapfrogs over Nursing the Uber percentage, now sitting at 85.
I'm really lost as to what that Uber use was. I wasn't directly watching Nursey, but I was keeping an eye. Her health was at 150. I didn't see too much that was directly pressuring her either. I mean, maybe there's something I missed. There must have been, but that might be the death knell there. I mean, the fact that KND have to build against the advantage of Irene. They do have a couple of picks in their favor, which is really good now. Sky might be forced to use that Uber. She does pop it off. Here comes Jarrett charging forward. The demo Bull goes down. Eric too. But there's no one in KND to get on the point. Oh, Demento jumped on at the last second, but I think he was disguised. And that is the 4-0 sweep for Irene.
Yeah, and I'm running out of things to say. I was so zoned in for this to be a great match between both of these teams, and I mean, it was great just in how well and strong and cohesive Irene were able to perform. I mean, when you think about, like, the ideal way to play, you know, the image of victory, this is pretty much what you see. It's just really not what we were expecting from these two teams.
Yeah, it is a little bit of I don't want to say a disappointment. It's a surprise, honestly. You come in expecting kind of just this juggernaut matchup, and in some cases, I guess you could try to argue that it's even more telling of a match. The fact that when Irene need to put the stops out, they can just demolish anyone, really. You know, they did struggle, like you mentioned, and maybe it's just an effort thing. That whenever they want to put 100% in, they can, like I said, just take down anyone. But otherwise, when they're against teams and maybe underestimating them, they kind of play down to their opponent, which is a very common thing. But I don't really want to take anything away from Irene to say that KND played in a certain way. It was just dominant from start to finish. The way their flank played, their combo played together. Sky did a great job. There were a couple of hiccups on each side, but ultimately KND was not able to capitalize on a single one.
Yeah, and I think last week, especially that match, you know, you saw KND missing 3 mains. Fast Forward did end up taking the win, but it was very long and grueling. You know, we saw 11-minute pushes from both teams at some point, really, if not longer, and just this really back and forth where you can say, yeah, well, there's enough fights there where, you know, maybe if KND has their mains, they take this. I mean, you can say Blake may not have been performing up to caliber in the first round or so, which really isn't even fair against him. Coming in here playing 3 different classes in 3 weeks, he's the type of sub any team would love to have. But like, just how dominant Irene was, you have to imagine that no roster changes are going to change how this match went. Irene was winning this regardless of what timeline we're in here. With just how absolutely dominant they were. I mean, we have I'm not sure what the log situation is. It looks like the frags combined correctly, the rounds not so much. Looking like Boar dropped a 30 and 7 coming in here, and I think those damage stats are messed up because while he did do good, I don't think he did 927 DPM good. But
Yeah.
that is still an impressive KD for this level of match. And in Space Coast defense, I mean, he didn't even do that poorly overall. One of the few people on his team to not go negative. Just really not too much he can do there when, he's getting collapsed upon by Benny and Habib at all times, and then his team's really not able to get anything going either. Jacob 8 and 19 having a rough game. Same with Etney. Bull, as we saw last week, was kind of getting exploited by Fast Forward. It looked like getting caught out before fights very frequently. Kind of dying at really inopportune times, and it continues here. Anytime KND looking to maybe get something going, it seems like he's getting a bullet in his head from Boar across the map just consistently, and it really stifled any of those few advantages KND may have been able to get.
It's kind of one of those things that when it rains it pours in a lot of ways, and you can kind of point to it. It's a complete team game. It's Team Fortress 2, haha. But like, when your team is on top, it gets so much easier. As a sniper, it's a lot easier to just kind of just sit back, and you don't have to worry too much about this or that, and just focus on where your crosshair is and aim. Of course, Boar, one of the best playing right now, and it's then Boar starts having a good game, and when he's having a good game, it makes it easier because Sky doesn't have to worry too much about snipers in front of her, and other players can just kind of focus on the spy, and the fact that Billy Source doesn't have to worry about maybe as many projectiles come in front. He can focus on the spy, and it's like each player, as they do well, is helping another class excel at their job too, and that's how you make a complete team. And Irene looked like the most complete team, kind of continuing the dominance again. Spiritual successor to DK. It's hard to say that without Carl on the team, of course, but maybe continuing in fashion what DK has done to Highlander the past I don't know, 2 years.
Yeah, no, it's 6. I think it was what? No, it was 8 straight. I mean, if you Carl calls it 8 straight. I believe it was 7 because there was the title revoked back in, I want to say that was season 18. But
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, that's at least 2 years, verging on 3. But I mean, I'm not entirely surprised that we see Irene looking this dominant. I think from the beginning of the season, when you look at this roster, you imagine, this is their potential. This is what they're capable of. I'm just so surprised that it happened now. Like, we casted them week 1. We saw that really close game with Fest 4 that was just really scrappy and showed that, they did have weaknesses. And I think that was maybe something that Apollo Dash learned from that and kind of looked into in their match last week against them, said that, hey, look, these guys have weaknesses that we can exploit, and let's do that. And then, we saw that with those roster changes, maybe Irene's thinking that, hey, we've got some things we need to work on too. We can't just coast to, get in playoffs and by then we'll be fully revved up. But looks like a completely different team this week. I mean, like, if you looked at this team in week 1 and looked at them now, you wouldn't believe it was the same team. They're playing so sharp and just so on the ball about everything. It's really incredible just from as a fan of the game. I would have liked to have seen this be, just more hotly contested for the sake of the cast and, for the excitement of watching it. But I think this is exciting in its own right, seeing masterful TF2.
Right. Yeah, and again, it could be one of those things. I mean, where you do play down to certain opponents. It's pretty common to see where you size up an opponent and you're like, okay, we don't need to worry about them too much, and then their sniper has a good game, and I'm making up a scenario here, but their sniper has a good game, and it kind of throws you off tilt because you're like, oh man, we're supposed to be beating these guys, and everyone gets mad. Someone blames, well, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, and then that causes a rift, and all of a sudden, that's how you end up with upsets and things like that. So I do like to see that Irene, when they need to take care of business, they will, and for their own sake, again, because of the match point system within RGL, it really would behoove them to continue to be dominant, not insinuating that they wouldn't want to, of course, but it just continues to bode well for them that they have this second gear that maybe other teams don't have.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we talked about how KND was technically ahead of them in match points due to that, but I think Irene maybe they realized that just now and said, hey, yeah, they do have to just kick it into that second gear you're talking about and really just start playing like they mean it. It's not like in UGC where you can just say, all right, well, as long as we don't actually lose, we're fine. Because that's not true, in RGL, which I think is great because it means that you have to see these teams have to be trying. You kind of be sandbagging a bit and say, oh well, it's regular season. If we finish third seed as opposed to second, we'll be fine. But all those things can come back to haunt you here, and maybe Irene realized it. Maybe it's just a side effect of having played with this roster for an additional week, kind of gelling a little bit more and everyone getting more used to their roles. But I think Irene's going to be the team to beat from here on out for the rest of this season, and I wouldn't be surprised if that half that Apollo dodge snagged off of them might be the last we'll see anyone able to take off of them if they continue to play like this.
Yeah, but we'll definitely keep our eyes set for that rematch later on in the season. I think KND is going to have a huge chip on their shoulder, and we might get an even better match than we would have had this been close, because KND is going to come in fired up. Again, they're both going to be in the playoff race. Depending on how the seeding works out, there may be implications on that. I think I really, not to get too ahead of ourselves, we have a lot of great Highlander to watch between now and then, but it's, I guess, mark your calendars in a sense, because I think the next matchup is going to be nuts.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think talking about, Irene too much, really, there's not that much more to say at this point. When you're the top, the only way to go is up. What do you think KND can really learn from this match? I mean, be it in terms of specifics or in just more, overall sweeping statements, since you got to figure they got to be able to take something out of this, right? There's got to be some sort of silver lining in this.
Yeah, it's really kind of hard to say when you look at it. It's maybe one of those things where you do need to just brush it in your mind and say, this was a tough loss. We didn't perform as well as we wanted to. We got some robot action.
Yeah, a little F1 cat going on right now.
I think Mumble might be dying. You're a robot for me too.
Oh, are we? All right, then this may be a good. Oh, are we good? Yeah, it sounds like we're good.
You're back. All right. Yeah. All right. Technical difficulties, but anyway, I think it's one of those things you just kind of need to brush it out of your mind really and just kind of say, like, look, we got beat. There are, maybe some little things that you can improve upon, and maybe say, okay, when we have Oblivion back, what is it we can do to stop flanks from pressuring us? Maybe Cascade just isn't our map, and that should be an insta-ban whenever we have picks, pick weeks in the future, things like that. I think you have to just kind of, it might just be the answer that you never play Cascade if you can avoid it. And that just might be the small thing for KND, unless they really want to put in the time and effort and do a demo review or things like that. It's very hard to have takeaways in the moment. If you're a team, if you're really trying to put the effort forth, you might just have to kind of review afterwards what you can improve.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if you're KND, you're thinking, damn, if only we'd played Asheville right now, Maybe we don't win anyway, but it's probably better than this, because it's hard to imagine that going any worse.
Right.
For KND. But, no, thankfully, what's nice about RGL is we do have a double round robin. So, one loss against the team doesn't really mean anything. There's still another 7 weeks of action left here where, you're gonna see all these teams get another shot at each other. And then whether or not, that means Irene's just going to run away with the season at this point, or if all the teams that they played are going to, band together and, combine their energies and spirit bomb them. I don't know, see something exciting happen later on down the line. It's not a one and done kind of thing. If you see a team and they beat you, but you say, well, maybe they have some little exploitable tendencies, you're going to be able to come back and deal with them at a later date. So, as you said, definitely something to mark your calendars for about when these two teams play each other again. But I think that's probably going to be about it from us. Vox, do you have any closing remarks on just the match, season, RGL, anything?
I'm excited to see how things kind of continue. I've been a little bit. Anyone who's kind of watched me cast before knows I've been a little out of the scene with Highlander. I'm excited to kind of get back in there and watch some more and cast some more. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on how things unfold. I've been a huge fan of the way RGL, starting obviously with sevens, how that's kind of come about, and I'm excited to see how Highlander goes under that guidance too. Other than that, just want to shout out to the Goof Troop, and that's all for me.
All right, yeah, and I want to just throw out the customary shout out to Dolphin behind the scenes. Camera work's been improving extremely steadily. Been noticing some comments, just saying how great it is. And when I watch the VODs back, I'm thinking the same thing myself. So, hearts out in chat for Dolphin. And I think that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.